There's a bottle of oil sitting in the paint section of your hardware store right now that costs less than $4, has been sitting on that same shelf for over 100 years, and will permanently restore faded gray plastic back to deep, rich black in about 15 minutes. Dealers charge between $150 and $300 to do this. Detailing shops charge $60 to $100 an hour and call it a specialty service. The actual material cost of what they use is under 50 cents. Stick around, because I'm going to show you exactly what is happening to your plastic, why the expensive products keep failing, what this oil actually does that nothing else does, and how to use it yourself today on your car trim, your outdoor furniture, your garden equipment, or anything else that has gone that sad, chalky gray. But first, have you ever noticed that faded plastic doesn't just look bad? It looks defeated, like the whole vehicle aged 10 years in one direction, while the rest of it held up fine. The bumper trim, the mirror covers, the body cladding, all of it gone gray. So you buy a bottle of something from the auto parts store. You wipe it on. It looks incredible for about a week, sometimes less, and then one rainstorm later you're back to exactly where you started. And you figure that's just how plastic is, that it can't be fixed, that the only real option is to repaint or replace. That is exactly what the detailing industry needs you to believe, because if you understood what was actually happening to your plastic, you would never pay for that service again. Here is the science. And once you understand it, everything else clicks. Plastic is not a dead material. Most exterior plastic, particularly the polypropylene and ABS used in automotive trim, outdoor furniture, and equipment housings, is manufactured with oils and plasticizers built into the polymer structure from the start. Those compounds are what give plastic its color, depth, its flexibility, and its surface sheen. The plastic doesn't just look dark. It is dark because of what's inside it. UV radiation from the sun attacks the polymer chains at a molecular level. The scientific term is photodegradation. High-energy UV rays penetrate the surface and break the chemical bonds that hold the material together. That breakdown generates free radicals, which react with oxygen in the air in a process called photooxidation. And photooxidation does two things simultaneously. It depletes the oils and plasticizers near the surface, dehydrating the plastic from the outside in, and it leaves a thin layer of oxidized, chalky residue on the surface that scatters light instead of absorbing it. That is the gray. That is the chalky, flat, dead-looking surface. Not dirt, not staining. Dehydrated, oxidized polymer that has lost the compounds that made it dark. Now here is what every spray bottle and wipe-on dressing at the auto parts store is actually doing, and why it keeps failing. Those products are silicone-based. Silicone sits on top of the oxidized layer and looks great while it's wet. It temporarily fills in the surface, reflects light the way healthy plastic does, and fools you into thinking the plastic has been restored. Then the rain comes. Or you wash the car, and the silicone washes off because it never bonded to anything. And the oxidized layer it was sitting on top of is still there, still dehydrated, still gray underneath. Worse, there's documented evidence that silicone-based dressings, as they break down in UV exposure, can actually accelerate the oxidation of the plastic beneath them. You are paying for a product that temporarily hides the problem and then makes it worse. Every 30 days, indefinitely. The detailing industry generates $15 billion a year in the United States alone. That model depends on you coming back. A product that permanently solved the problem for $4 has no place in that business model. So what actually works and why? Boiled linseed oil. That is the answer. It has been the answer since long before the synthetic dressing industry existed. You will find it in the paint section of any hardware store. Lowe's, Home Depot, any independent hardware shop, in a brown or yellow can. It will say boiled linseed oil on the label. It costs $3 to $4 for a can that will restore every piece of faded plastic on 2 or 3 vehicles. The boiled version, not raw. The boiling process modifies the oil's drying chemistry so it cures rather than staying permanently tacky. Here is what it actually does and why it lasts when everything else fails. The paint thinner in the mix, mineral spirits, also called white spirits, acts as a carrier solvent. It temporarily softens the very top layer of the oxidized plastic surface, opening up the polymer just enough to allow what comes next to get in. The linseed oil follows the solvent in, carrying with it a complex mixture of triglycerides and fatty acids that are chemically similar to the plasticizers that were originally built into the material. It is not coating the surface, it is replenishing what was lost. When the solvent evaporates and the linseed oil cures, it cross-links with the polymer structure and stays there. Not sitting on top, waiting to be washed off, but bound into the material. That is why it lasts months instead of days. That is why a rainstorm doesn't undo it. Here is how you do it. The preparation step is what most people skip, and it is the reason they get mediocre results. Whatever you are restoring, car trim, garden furniture, tool housing, outdoor equipment, clean the surface first with isopropyl alcohol on a clean cloth. Not soapy water, not a general cleaner, isopropyl alcohol specifically. Any silicone from previous dressings, any road film, any wax overspray will create a hydrophobic barrier that stops the linseed oil from penetrating the way it needs to. 70% isopropyl from the pharmacy works fine. Wipe the entire surface down and let it dry completely. A minute is enough. Now mix your solution. 1 part boiled linseed oil to 1 part mineral spirits. Half and half. A small glass jar is perfect for this. You only need a small amount. For a full set of automotive trim on a mid-size car, a 1/4 cup of mixed solution is probably more than enough. For a set of outdoor chairs, maybe half a cup. A little goes much further than you expect. Apply it to a clean microfiber cloth, not a paper towel, the texture isn't right, and work it into the plastic surface using firm, circular motions. You will see the gray start to go dark almost immediately as the solution contacts the surface. That is the oxidized layer lifting and the oil beginning to saturate the plastic beneath. Keep working it in for 30 seconds to a minute per section. On heavily faded plastic with deep oxidation, apply a first coat, give it 5 minutes, then apply a second coat the same way. The second coat on badly oxidized plastic is what takes it from improved to genuinely restored. Once you have worked the solution into the surface, take a second clean, dry microfiber cloth and wipe off the excess. You want a thin, even layer absorbed into the material, not a pool sitting on the surface. Buff gently. The plastic should now look darker, richer, and have a low sheen rather than a high gloss. Not greasy, not wet looking, just the way it looked when it was new. Leave it alone for 24 hours to let the oil cure fully before the vehicle is washed or the furniture is rained on. In cold weather or low humidity, allow up to 48 hours. Once cured, it is water resistant and will not streak or wash off. One critical safety note, and it is non-negotiable. Linseed oil-soaked rags can spontaneously combust. Well, this is not an exaggeration. It is a documented fire hazard caused by the heat generated as the oil oxidizes and cures. Do not fold a used rag and leave it in a pile. Do not put it in a bin. When you are done, either spread the rag completely flat outdoors to dry in a single layer until fully cured, or submerge it in a bucket of water. Either one eliminates the risk. This is the only step that requires real attention, and it takes 5 seconds. Now for the honest limit, because this channel always gives you the full picture. Boiled linseed oil will not fix plastic that has gone beyond oxidation into structural degradation. If the surface is chalky to the touch and the plastic has become brittle, cracking at the edges, or has a rough gritty texture that doesn't respond to cleaning, that is a sign the UV damage has gone deep into the polymer structure. At that stage, you are looking at the plastic itself breaking down, not just the surface oils depleting. Linseed oil will improve the appearance somewhat, but will not restore the structural integrity. That is a replace or repaint situation. But it is a much less common situation than most people think. The majority of plastic that looks completely destroyed responds dramatically to this treatment because what you're seeing is surface oxidation, not structural failure. For everything else, every gray bumper cover, every faded garden chair, every chalky outdoor housing, every sun-damaged trim piece that a dealer quoted you $150 to fix, this is the answer. $4, 15 minutes. Results that last months, not days. The detailing industry has a product category called trim restores. It is a multi-$100 million segment. The professional grade ones use carbon black compounds and solvent carriers to deposit pigment into the plastic surface pores. They work well. They cost $20 to $40 for a small bottle and need reapplication every few months. The linseed oil approach works through a different mechanism, replenishing the actual plasticizers rather than depositing pigment, and at a fraction of the cost. It is not a hack. Painters and craftsmen have used linseed oil to preserve and restore polymer-based materials for over a century. The auto industry did not tell you about it because they cannot sell you a subscription to a $4 can of hardware store oil. They replaced something permanent with something you have to buy again next month. That is not a coincidence. Now you know, and you won't forget it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.